Morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the life and letters of the Apostle Peter, and we're in John chapter 18 today with Jesus' betrayal and arrest in the Garden of Gethsemane. This, of course, is reported in all 3 of the Synoptic Gospels, but I picked John's version to share today because John is the one who names names. John is the one who tells us Peter is the one who wielded the sword. John is the one who tells us that the man whose ear was severed was named Malchus. We have to go to the Synoptic Gospels to learn that Jesus actually healed the ear there on the spot, which is an important detail as well. But John doesn't have to tell us that, because when John wrote his gospel at the end of the 1st century, the other 3 had already been written, and they already knew the information. What they didn't know was who the man was whose ear was chopped off and who chopped it off. Let's read John chapter 18, verses 1 through 11. We said that Peter on this night is having a terrible night, and it just goes from bad to worse, just in terms of him being the man he needs to be. And let's not forget, Jesus just woke him up when this happens. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went forth with his disciples over the ravine of the Kidron to where there was a garden, into which he himself entered and his disciples. Now Judas, who was betraying him, knew the place, for Jesus had often met there with the disciples. Judas then, having received the Roman cohort and officers from the chief priests and of the Pharisees, came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Jesus, therefore, knowing all the things that were coming upon him, went forth and said, "Whom do you seek?" They answered him, "Jesus of Nazareth." And he said to them, "I am he." And Judas, who was betraying him, was standing with them. When therefore he said to them, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Whom do you seek?" And they said, "Jesus the Nazarene." Jesus said, "I told you I'm he, therefore you seek me. Let these other ones go their way, that the word might be fulfilled which he spoke, of those whom you have given me, I have not lost one." He's referring to the last chapter, chapter 17, where Jesus is praying for his apostles and for us. Okay. Simon Peter, therefore, having a sword, drew it, and struck the high priest's slave, and cut off his right ear, and the slave's name was Malchus. Jesus therefore said to Peter, "Put the sword into the sheath. The cup which the Father has given me, shall I not drink it?" And remember back in Matthew chapter 16, when Jesus called Peter Satan, because Peter was not willing to let Jesus undergo the things he told him and told all of them that he had to. And that same impulse is at work here. Where did the sword come from? What kind of a sword was it? Well, it's probably more what we would think of as a machete. It was probably, a long tool, a long knife that he would have had as a fisherman, to clean, to gut, to scale, to to chop, to do whatever he needed to do. I mean, to cut rope, to cut nets, and they had 2 of them. We know this from Luke chapter 22, when Jesus said, make sure you have that with you. And they say, "We have 2," and Jesus says, "That's enough." And what does that mean, that's enough? Enough for what? Certainly not enough to fight, if you're going to fight 2 against all this force gathered together. I think when Jesus says it's enough, he means it's enough like he said it's enough yesterday. We're done talking about this. But we know that at least 2 of them had their machete with them, their working knives with them. And so he drew this, and this isn't, a pocket knife or a paring knife. This is big. And he cut off Malchus's ear. He is not a fencing master. He was not aiming for the man's ear. Like, I'll cut off your ear. Now what are you going to do? He was trying to split the man's head open. And the man either ducked or Peter missed in the heat of the moment, and more damage was not done. Jesus healed that man, and they arrested him anyway, which is what people do. The facts seem to be irrelevant whenever, your emotions are running high. And Jesus was quite stern with Peter. Put that into its sheath. This is what's supposed to happen to me. This is what I have been brought here to do, and you don't want me to do it? Peter is fulfilling the same role that he was fulfilling in Matthew chapter 16, only with his physical actions, not with his words. I also want us to notice that at this point, Jesus, he's ready. We're told in Luke that an angel comforted him. And his prayers were not answered, not the way he wanted them to be. But he did receive strength to do what he needed to do. And he is completely in charge and prepared and ready to face this ordeal when he leaves the Garden of Gethsemane. Tomorrow, Peter will deny Jesus. We'll see you then.